it's Craftsman here. I thought I'd do a little video on survival, basic survival skills, namely being starting fire with a bow drill. I know it's been done many times before, but I think I've got maybe a little bit of a different spin on it. I want to simplify it for most people. Survival often comes down to the basic fact that you have confidence in yourself and your abilities. Will it ever come down to where you need a bow drill to start a fire? Well, hopefully not. But it's still a good skill to have. You never really know in the world what's going to happen. And one of the basic Murphy's laws is, what can happen will happen. And inevitably, you never know if you're going to be prepared for any given situation. So a little knowledge goes a long ways. Let's get down to it. This is the basic stuff you're going to end up wanting to make. The cordage, of course, is store-bought, but there are many videos out there how to make your own cordage. The most important parts of the kit are your fireboard, your spindle, which is kind of pointy on one end and rounded on the other end. And then you have your handle and your bow, which can be made of anything. Your fireboard and your spindle need to be made out of a softer wood. Hardwoods will work, but it requires a lot more skill. These I made out of willow, and they can be just dead off the tree. You don't want something that's rotten, but you don't necessarily want something that's green either. Somewhere between the two. So these were just made off limbs that were laying on the ground, but not laying flat on the ground. Enough where they're off the ground to be dry, or you have to dry them before using them. I got a piece of birch bark here to catch my coal, and then a bird's nest I made out of simple reed grass. I just peeled the leaves off and got a bunch of them together and tied a knot in them, made a little nest, and shredded up a bunch of fine stuff in the center. That'll be where your coal will go. Now, a lot of people believe that using the bow drill, that you just gotta go like crazy and work it as fast as you can to create enough heat to start a fire. And that's not really true. The objective is to create dust, and you want that dust to be created in your hole and come out in this little notch and pile up. Now that dust is the most important part of it. It needs to be like between brown and black. If you're not creating any dust, this will not work. You must create dust, and you want to get a nice little pile of it in there. And then once you have the dust created, you basically lean down a little harder onto it and pump like crazy for a very short time, and you'll see smoke and heat develop, and hopefully that will turn your dust into a coal. So that's the basics of it. It's a little easier on something like this to actually show someone. So let me put my cordage on my bow, and I'll get set up, and I'll show you the actual the form of doing it. One thing I wanted to go over is the materials one more time. The kind of wood you make it out of is important, but you can use willow, poplar, pine, most any softwood will work. I believe basswood will work. The whole idea is that, a lot of guys will tell you all about all these exotic woods that you can use and you have to search for, but pretty much any softwood will work. The big key here is that you're getting the dust generated from your spindle, and As long as it's creating dust, you got the right wood. It'll work. The darker the dust, the better. As far as the notch is concerned, this is basically what you're looking at. You want your notch to go towards the center of the hole, and it's got to be deep enough when you first carve it to hold the spindle, but you don't need to have it quite as deep as what's here, because this is burned in, which is what you're going to do with your spindle. When you first begin, you burn the hole in a little bit to get the shape right, and it'll shape itself. This is pretty much over here. This hole here is pretty much a worn out hole. See how deep it is, and it's almost to the bottom of the stick. That's pretty much worn out. What happens is you get too much friction on the sides, and it starts not really working well. As far as the shape of your stick, I like to have them flat. So when you take your round stick, you split it directly in half, and you flatten the back side of the stick, so that basically when it sits down, you'll be able to put it on your bark and have it fill up the notch. If it's round, it'll set way too high above your notch, or above your bark, and the powder will all fall away. You want it to pretty much sit down there. Your socket, all it has to do is have a little round hole in it, all the way through, obviously, so that you can fit your spindle in there. Your spindle needs to be semi-pointed on one end. That's the end you make the fire, or this is the end you put in your socket. You want that to spin freely in the socket. The way you achieve that, basically, you take the end you're going to put in your socket. Never do it on your fire end. Only the end you're going to put in your socket, and rub it next to your nose just like this. Generally, you'll have enough greases next to your nose to lubricate this end. Do not use water. Water will actually create more friction, and it will not help you. You need to use the grease next to your nose. There's some other plants that you can get grease from, but I find that works just perfectly well. Let's see, what else? The bow should look sort of like this here. Let me see. The bow should look sort of like this here. And basically, you don't want your string too tight, because it's got to wrap around your stick, which I'll go over in a moment. This is a little bit of a close-up of the bird's nest. Nothing fancy, just shred up some material in the center. The more shredded you make it, the more likely it'll catch a spark. So, there you go. So basically, I gathered a bunch of materials in this pail here, which of course you wouldn't have a pail in a while, but you get the idea. I will lay down a place to get the fire started, basically. Up off the ground. You want to keep your moisture down, so you have some nice dry sticks. I collect a little birch bark, if possible. And a lot of little twigs. And a lot of little dry twigs. Dryness is an important factor, obviously. I think most of you guys that watch this stuff have a basic understanding of what we're looking for. You want to have plenty of fuel on hand. You do not want to run out of fuel while you're trying to build a fire. That's not going to work out good for you. So there you go. A bunch of dry twigs. Basically, I like to keep them on the long side. I'll shred the bark up a little bit, ready to go. Okay. All right. I want to show you a little bit about form. So you want the rounded part of your spindle that's not lubed to be at the bottom. So try to slip this around so that it's captive in here. So basically stick it in there and give it a little spin. You want your left foot to be there, your right knee to be like this. It's very important to have the right stance. You hook your arm around your knee, put your spindle down there, your socket goes on the top. Now you hold everything nice and loose, and just enough tension, and just go slow beginning. Get everything spinning. Basically, you just want to warm the setup. Get it so everything's going nice and smooth. Now notice, I'm not going like crazy. You just got to go nice and easy. And basically, you just keep working it, and you keep your weight on it. The big thing is keeping your socket hand still as can, fixed in place. Makes things easier. I have so much clothes on it makes it hard to do this a little bit, but it's like 15 degrees out here, so bear with me. Notice I am making a little smoke. Just have long, easy strokes. Don't try to bear down. Don't try to start the fire yet. It's not ready. You gotta wait until you get a nice amount of dust in that notch. Okay, you get the basic idea. I want to basically bring you in a little closer now so you can actually see what's going on in that notch. Now keep your foot kind of close to the notch so you're really in good control. So just go a nice steady pace. You'll start seeing that brown dust going in the notch. You'll start seeing a little heat generating. Don't mind the excess twine at the other end of my bow. I always leave a little extra, depending on whatever bow you have you could be making. So you'll see smoke start wisping up. And hopefully dust will start filling your notch. The more dust you generate, the better the ember will be. Now, as you generate dust, the notch is getting full now. So you'll be able to start going a little more rapidly. And you'll see the smoke start billowing. You apply a little more pressure. You start seeing good steady smoke, you can stop. See if that stays. And unsuccessful. Okay. It's alright. Don't waste that dust. Leave the dust there. And do it again. This stuff always happens on video. Never make it easy on you when you're taking a video. quicker. Let's get started. You want to make sure that ember keeps growing. Whew. If you're a little bit younger than me, you probably won't be huffing and puffing quite like this. Big thing is, don't be in a rush. Don't think it's gonna go out. It shouldn't, unless it's really blowing wind or something. So that's what we're talking about right there. So you try to transfer that without disturbing it any more necessarily. Make sure you have all that nice powder in there. So you got the ember in there, and you start covering it up. Don't squeeze it too hard, but you want to squeeze it a little bit. And basically, what you're going to have is a little glowing ember inside that bird's nest that should catch it. So now, hopefully we can move everything back a little bit. One hand, but hopefully you can see this. Okay. There you go. Make sure you get that wood right on there. Get that wood right on there, you got it made, man. That's why it's so important to get your tinder bundle all set up nice. Man, this is, my friend, how you do it. So if this old man can do it, all you young guys ought to be able to do it. You just got to put your mind to it. and make it happen. A little experimentation. Expect to fail a few times, but if you pay attention to your form, you will be successful. So this is a Craftsman 100. I hope you learned something from this, and have a nice day.